This is the flag of Acadiana, covering the Cajun region of Louisiana, USA. This is the flag of the Philippines in comparison. The resemblance is perhaps uncanny, right? In this video, we'll trace 6 degrees of separation that link the so-called Cajun flag with the Philippine flag through a very curious article that came out in 1883 in the American publication Harper's, roughly more than 140 years ago. Stick around and watch this interesting episode to see the surprising ending. First degree of separation, the Cajun flag. The Cajun flag is not per se the flag of the Cajun people, but instead it is the flag of the Cajun region. This interstate region is composed of 22 out of 64 so-called parishes that make up Louisiana, with a parish the counterpart of a U.S. county rather than a parochial unit of the Catholic Church. Here's a map of the Cajun region relative to the whole of Louisiana, and as can be plainly seen, it is mostly at the southern end of this U.S. state. Second degree of separation. The word Cajun. Who were the Cajuns? The word itself comes from the word Acadian, from which we get Cajun. This description was first applied to the people who were descended from the Acadians, the French-speaking people which resided in a place called Acadia in Canada before the outbreak of the Seven Years' War from 1756 to 1763 between England and France, and who were subsequently expelled by the British as it seized control of Acadia in the American theater of the war, called the French and Indian War by the U.S. Some of these expelled Acadians eventually moved to Louisiana as it was French territory with a big Francophone tradition. This is an approximate map of Acadia located just to the south of Quebec and north of the state of Maine, United States. Also, here's a big map of Canada from the American Map Corporation to help situate Acadia from the overall map of Canada versus northern United States. Acadia would be at the lower right part of the map. Thus, it can be said that Acadiana was the region of the transplanted Acadians, so the Cajun flag is not really the flag of Acadia, but that of Acadiana. So just remember, Acadiana is different from Acadia. Acadiana refers to the Cajun region of the United States, while Acadia refers to the original Canadian region. Third degree of separation, Louisiana and Three Flags Day. Louisiana was originally French territory and was named after Louis XIV, King of France from 1643 to 1715. The region was claimed by France in 1682, but Spain gained and held control over this territory between 1762 to 1801 as a secret Spanish acquisition from France towards the end of the Seven Years' War. The region was then ceded back to France in 1800, with Spain relinquishing all control by 1803. However, even as the French under Napoleon Bonaparte was getting back full control of Louisiana in 1800, it was also considering selling it to the United States for various reasons. The result was the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, where the U.S. acquired the whole of the Louisiana Territory, which at that time was a larger area than what the current state of Louisiana occupies. Thus, on March 9 and 10 of 1804, Three Flags Day was commemorated as the Spanish completed the turnover of the Louisiana Territory to France, who then proceeded to turn over the territory to the United States. With this acquisition, the U.S. effectively doubled its territory, moving ever so westward and now becoming neighbors of the Viceroyalty of Spain that would eventually become Mexico. Please note that Mexico was much larger than what the current map of Mexico now shows. Interestingly enough, this map actually shows a place called New Philippines just beside the state of Louisiana. Interesting, right? But this does not have anything to do with our 6 degrees of separation, but regardless, it's still an interesting point to note. At this point, the Cajuns were associated not just with the descendants of the Acadians, but with the French-speaking Creoles and other people residing in the Cajun regions of Louisiana and other adjoining states. The fourth degree of separation. Harper's Weekly and a curious article dated March 31, 1883. Harper's Weekly was a U.S. magazine based in New York City that ran from 1857 all the way to 1916, billing itself as a journal of civilization. It ran extensive articles on the American Civil War and later became very influential in U.S. politics. On March 31, 1883, Harper's Weekly published an article entitled St. Malo, a lacustrine village in Louisiana, which started thus.
For nearly 50 years there has existed in the southeastern swamplands of Louisiana a certain strange settlement of Malay fishermen, Tagalas from the Philippine Islands. The place of their lacustrine village is not precisely mentioned upon maps, and the world in general ignored until a few days ago the bare fact of their amphibious existence. Even the United States Mail Service has never found its way thither, and even in the great city of New Orleans, less than 100 miles distant, the people were far better informed about the Carboniferous era than concerning the swampy affairs of this Manila village.
Fifth degree of separation. A Filipino community, the Manilamen of St. Malo. It turns out that the article was a result of an expedition sent there with the express intention of investigating this mysterious, isolated village located in the swamplands of Bourne, in the parish of St. Bernard, Louisiana. This was a fishing village of Filipinos who had apparently started there around 50 years before the article was published in March 1883. Some even say that these Filipinos were there even earlier, although there are some disputes about that. These were Filipino sailors who were by now fishermen and alligator hunters living in isolation in the swamps of Louisiana for their livelihood, and who were still connected in some way to the city of New Orleans via a Manila benevolent society called La Unión Filipina. In any case, it has been pretty much recognized that this was the first permanent Filipino community established in the United States, and there's even an official Louisiana State historical marker there as of November 2019, courtesy of the work of the Philippine Louisiana Historical Society that states that. Sixth degree of separation. The Manilamen spoke Malay and a surprising additional language and had maintained links with Manila at that time. It is perhaps unsurprising that the Manilamen spoke a Malay language like Tagalog, as they were referred to as Tagalas in the article. That they had maintained Tagalog after all those decades in the community is a testament to their relative isolation and their sense of community. However, there was one more language that bound them together despite their apparent heterogeneity in appearance. The Filipinos spoke Spanish. As the article writes, the Filipinos even played a game of keno where numbers are called out in a playful way similar to how bingo is called nowadays in the Philippines. But the Manilamen punned in Spanish. The article writes, for example, Número 4, La Casa del Gato, or 6 con su 9, arribe y abajo, de dos pareja, dos paticos en laguna. So here in 1883 was a clear example of Filipinos speaking Spanish, who are not elites nor were rich people, but lowly fishermen living in an isolated Filipino community in the swamps of Louisiana, that they maintained contacts with New Orleans and with Manila itself pointed to the fact that Filipinos did speak Spanish at that time, and this St. Malo community was perhaps like a time capsule of what Filipinos spoke at that time. Unsurprisingly, a local language like Tagalog and Spanish as a sort of lingua franca dealing with Manila and the outside world, where Tagalog was not spoken. They didn't speak French or some French Creole, or even English because of their isolation, but rather spoke Spanish in 1883. This is food for thought for Filipinos who believe that Filipinos never spoke Spanish, as this little snippet belies that idea. In summary, the Cajun flag reflects the Cajun region of Louisiana and covers St. Malo, where the Manilamen thrived as hardy fishermen living in the swamps by the Lake of St. Bourne. And these Filipinos still spoke Spanish despite, or perhaps because of, their relative isolation. By the way, the Cajun flag is not a Filipino flag, but is of recent vintage, coming out only in 1965, but it covered a region which included the place where the first Filipino community was established in the US. Pretty apt, isn't it? If you enjoyed this episode, please click like and subscribe to our channel to continue supporting us. That's all I have for now. Vivan los Filipinos! Mabuhay!